Okay, so I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I am really good at multitasking. You guys would probably be surprised and be like, oh, what does multitasking have to do with this? Well, honestly, you guys will figure it out and realize soon enough. But this story does go insane. And honestly, I think you guys do want to hear this all the way through. And on top of that, I just want to say a quick thank you for everyone that decided to click on this video. Welcome to the Bubba channel, where we literally tell stories about me doing the devil's tango and so much more. So I just want to give a quick reminder of thank you. And as well as on top of that, make sure you guys do join the Twitch streams and Discord server. Seriously, we always talk in there. There's over 8,000 of you guys in a Discord server, and I love meeting every single one of you guys. But other than that, let's get straight into this crazy story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy story. So this story starts off back in high school. You see, this was my grade 10 going on to 11th year. It was the summer of, at least. And I remember at this time and age, I'm not gonna lie, I was going to a lot of different parties. If you guys don't know, I've told many party stories on here before, and especially on TikTok. If you guys don't follow, go follow already. And I tell these crazy stories about literally all these amazing parties I've gone to. But this one party was the most insane. And by insane, I mean literally crazy. And it all starts off with just a basic call. So one time, me and all my friends got into a group FaceTime call, and we were absolutely bored out of our minds. We had no idea what to do, and honestly, our summer was just getting boring and more boring by the day. And obviously, when you're with the boys, you tend to try to plan something fun to do. And at the time, we literally had absolutely nothing to do. So we started talking. We thought about hosting a party. Now, it wasn't gonna be all of us hosting a party, but luckily one of our friends ended up having his house empty, and his parents went on some kind of trip to, like, I don't know, the UK or something. So we decided to use his house to go have a crazy party. But inviting people and making sure things were getting done was kind of a hard part. Because if you guys don't know, one of the hardest parts about having a party is making sure it doesn't end up as a sausage fest. Because let's be real here, you really want a perfect distribution between guys and girls. You want to make it an even 50-50, or to be honest, the more girls, the better. So girls, if you guys get an invite to a party, please go. But going on though, like I was saying, I remember me and all my friends were just kind of planning out this party, and we went to my friend's house to make sure everything would be set up properly and stuff. And to be honest, we had no idea how this party was gonna go, because let's be real here, we were in high school. But I remember the next day, we ended up literally putting like Snapchats and literally telling people through text messages, even we put it on a Facebook post, that there was gonna be a big party happening. Then we waited a couple days later, and this thing ended up going all over the place. Now, at first, usually that'd be considered a good thing. But let's just say when the party ended up starting, we got way more people than we expected. It was to the point where people were literally outside and things were getting crowded. And funny enough, we realized that we invited more people than just our high school at the time. We ended up inviting people from other high schools coming into this place. And honestly, I ended up just being like, yo, this is like not my problem anymore. Like, this is crazy. And luckily, I was happy enough that I wasn't in my house. But going on, now we actually enter into the party. So when we were in the party, we realized that there was a lot of girls I have never met. And that's usually rare, because honestly, if you guys hear from these stories I tell, there's a lot of girls from my high school that already kind of know me for doing the devil's tango. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of like driving every car in the parking lot. Like, you've been there. But this one time, there were so many different people, so many different women. It was unreal. My eyes ended up glowing with happiness. Now, you guys are probably being like, how does this guy get the devil's tango? Like, this guy literally sounds like he's a virgin. And yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I do sound like that right now from how I'm making it sound like. But I'm gonna be real here. When you guys see new people and see a lot of hot girls in like one room, either you're like a gay best friend of theirs, or you're in the right place at the right damn time. And honestly, I was feeling the power of my eggplant just going in there. Anyways, going on though. So as I was walking around the party, I remember going up to the kitchen. I went to the kitchen. I ended up getting my beers that I kept in there, and I started drinking. I went back to back to back. Like, I was drinking like there was no tomorrow. By the way, I do not promote underage drinking. Don't do it unless you have a parent around, or if you're at a party and you know you're gonna be safe at. Actually, just don't underage drink at all. But YouTube, please don't take down this video. But like I was saying though, I started drowning drinks back to back. I was going crazy on them. And it got to the point where a couple of girls noticed me drinking on the couch, and they ended up sitting beside me. And then from there, they started having their shots, and they pulled out some kind of pink drink. And you know, for some reason, girls like drinking alcohol that's colorful. So it's like, you know, it was kind of cool. It tasted like candy, for God's sake. So anyways, we all started drinking. We ended up going back to back to back on these drinks. And it got to the point where, I'm not gonna lie, I was wasted. I was 100% wasted. I don't remember most of it, to be honest. So if I get a little finicky with the story time, just know I was totally wasted. I just don't remember most of it. But going on though, I remember as we were downing these drinks, these girls started getting closer and closer to me. And for some reason, these girls apparently have heard of me before from like other girls that I apparently met throughout Tinder or some other dating apps. Tinder, you're not sponsoring this video, so I don't get to say your name. But apparently they've heard of me before, and you know, me doing some chicks from back then. And in my mind, I'm like, oh great, like these girls are not gonna be good with me at all. Like, they're just gonna leave right now. And then they ended up getting even more closer and saying, so is it true, like, you're actually like that good in bed? Wait, what? what? Dude, I was absolutely shocked. Like, I had no idea what to say at that point. But then it got to a point where these two girls that were beside me drinking their colorful drinks started arguing. And I'm just gonna remind you guys right now, they were also kind of out of it. Not like drunk though. I think I was the only one that was actually like badly like intoxicated. But these girls were just like, you know, they were at their arguing stage. They started arguing about, you know, how like they both want to like hang out with me and stuff, and they both want to like, you know, chill with me in my car for some reason. I don't know. They were just going back to back and just having these weird conversations. And then it got to a point where both of them shook their hand together in front of me. I don't know. I was kind of twisted, like I said earlier. And they just said agreed. Now, at this moment, I had no idea what was going to go on. But the next minute, I see the party like slowly dying down, and these girls were just cuddling up beside me the whole time. One of them was some brunette chick. One of them was blonde, from what I remember at least. I could be totally wrong. For God's sakes, the girl could be a ginger for all I know. And they ended up basically standing me up and taking me upstairs. They took me upstairs to my friend's room at the time, and they got really close to me to the point where, like, you know, they were making out, and then I was just kind of watching that. And I remember when they were making out in front of me, my eyes were like droopy as hell. Like, I'm not joking when I say this. I was like, oh, that's kind of hot, but like, I'm so dead right now. These girls were kind of looking at me all cute and stuff, and they're like, you want to join in? And at that moment, I had to go and wake up. I literally said, yo, just give me like 1 minute. I went to the bathroom. I looked in the mirror and I looked at it deeply. I looked into my eyes and said, this is your A game. This is your A game. Don't mess this up. Because at this point, to be honest, in my head, I was thinking, if these girls have heard about me before, they definitely know I have a reputation I have to hold. Funny enough, this wasn't my YouTube reputation, but this was a reputation I needed to hold. So at this point, I'm like, screw it. Let's do this. Like, I'm gonna do it. Let's go. I went into that room and I saw they were already butt naked on my friend's bed. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. I ended up hopping on that bed and doing both of them and doing the devil's tango with them at the same damn time. Crazy. I know. It was absolutely insane. It got to the point where these girls were making so much noise that it was just, it got too loud. It got to the point where when my friend was trying to shut down the party, he turned off the music and he heard noises coming from upstairs. My friend went upstairs after that and he saw I was literally on his bed with these two girls doing the devil's tango. And it was absolutely disgusting. At least that's what he described it to me. And me, I'm gonna be honest, I was totally just intoxicated to the point where I don't even remember it happening. But going on though, it just kept going on, and I want to say we were there for like another hour. And then my friend knocked on the door saying, yo, Bubba, like, you gotta leave soon, bro. Like, you can't be here the whole night. You know that, right? And then as the girls heard that, they instantly just got up and they started getting clothing on, and they started giggling and stuff, and then they went downstairs. And then me, I was just laying there on the bed, just absolutely naked, going like, like, I was just so drooped out. Like, I couldn't even think straight. But then after that, I ended up getting my clothes. I put on my clothes and stuff. I just walked downstairs. All my friends are looking at me, just clapping. They're like, good stuff, Baba. Good stuff. Yeah, it was kind of awkward. I won't lie to you. But then I ended up sitting in my car and I just passed out. I literally slept in my car that night because I was so tired. And from there on out, honestly, I never heard from those two girls again. But at the same time, all I remember is that they were pretty nice. Pretty nice indeed. And that was the time where I did it with two girls at once. Absolutely insane, crazy experience of my life. Honestly, I will have to say. But at the same time, be safe. Be safe out there, ladies and gentlemen, because you never know what's going to happen. Anyways, guys, that is basically it for the story. Make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. Seriously, it means a lot when you guys do that. And like I said, join the Discord server, be friends, hang out with me. And if you guys have any questions, please do ask it down below. Now, on this channel, I've told a lot of stories about me doing the devil's tango. But have I ever told you about the time where I did it with two girls at the same time? This story honestly goes crazy. And before we get into it, make sure you guys press that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Seriously, it means a lot when you guys do this and changes my life for the better. But other than that, let's just jump straight into this insane story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba and welcome back to a really embarrassing video. So today's story all takes place back in my high school year, and this was my grade 11 year. Now, I remember one time I was walking down the hallway that year, and as I was walking down the hallway, I realized that there was a girl that kept staring at me for some really odd reason. Now, me and this girl did not have any classes together, nothing. Me and her, we kind of just like always looked at each other, but never actually did anything about it, which is very uncommon of me to do. But at the same time, it was getting towards the end of the school year and I had to focus on my classes. But then I remember out of nowhere, when I entered one of my classrooms, a girl ends up coming up to me. And this was a totally different girl. This was a girl that was just a really nice girl in my class that, to be honest, me and her have said a couple words to each other, but nothing to the point where it was flirtatious flirtatious. And I remember she comes up to me and says, hey, Bubba, I'm just curious. What are your plans for this weekend? Nothing. I'm planning on just kind of staying home. I got some homework to do, but other than that, I'm kind of just chilling. Why? What's up? She ends up asking me a couple of questions about, you know, do I have my car this weekend? And basically if I'm free to go out. I told her, sure, like I'm down to go out and stuff. And she said, bet. And then she ended up giving me an address to a house party that was happening. Now, it was no surprise that I got invited to a party. Back when I was in grade 11, I was invited to a bunch of different parties. But one thing I will say was that I found it very, very weird how when I went around and asked people if they got invited to a party from this girl, all of them said no. Even my closest friends said that they had no idea that there was a party going on. At this point, I felt really weird. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's like, you know, a party that other schools are going to other than mine. But at the same time, it never made sense to me why I was invited. Until one day, I remember the day of the party, I ended up going home and I was playing Xbox and talking to my friends on live party chat for a bit before I went to the party. And I asked them if, you know, maybe they wanted to come and stuff, but they said since they weren't invited, it wouldn't be cool if they showed up, which I don't see the problem with crashing parties. Like I would always do this back in high school. Like even if I wasn't invited, I'm still going to it. It's a party. Like, come on. Anyways, going on from there, I remember I ended up basically leaving my Xbox. I got dressed and I got all ready and I decided to drive over to the party. And when I got to the person's house that, you know, the girl gave me the address for, I realized that there was no other cars parked there and it didn't seem like the house was having a party. A lot of the lights were off and honestly there was only one light on upstairs and it was just really, well, how do I say this? It was really just gloomy and sad. Like it did not seem like a party house whatsoever. So at that point, I remember I got out of my car and I'm thinking, should I just turn around? Should I just not go? And most commonly people wouldn't go, but me, well, I always said yes to things in life, which led me to a lot of crazy experiences, which you guys know on this channel. But I remember I ended up going inside there, and when I went inside, I saw that out of nowhere, the girl that would always stare at me in the hallway opened the door before I even knocked on it. She looks at me and says, oh, hey, welcome to my house. I can't believe you actually came. Yeah. I thought it was gonna be a party though. Where's everybody? Wait, a party? Wait, what do you mean a party? I never was having a party. At this point, I was confused. I'm like, wait, did I just get lied to? Who is this girl? Like, why is she looking at me like this? Like, I know this was the girl from my school, but why am I here? And at that point, I looked at her and said, wait, let me pull out my phone. And I decided to call the girl that invited me to this party in the first place. I called her and I said, yo, I'm at the party right now, but there isn't a party. She ends up telling me how, like, you know, this whole storyline about how this girl always had a crush on me, but she never had the courage to walk up to me, so she wanted me to walk up to her. I don't know, she was trying to basically become the main character in a movie. It was the most dumbest thing ever, and honestly, to this point in my life, I realized that it was the most awkward interaction I think I've ever had. So at that point, I got really upset, and I said, yo, like, this was not cool. Like, why did you do this? Like, seriously? Like, that's just so weird. And then she said that she lives down the street, and she'll come over to make, you know, the situation less awkward. I told her okay, and she ended up coming over, and me and her, we all ended up sitting in the living room, just kind of looking at each other, thinking, what in the world are we doing here? Because I came for a party. She thought I was, you know, gonna confess my love to this girl that lives at this house. The girl that invited me in the first place, well, she's just sitting there acting like she's watching a TV drama. And I remember I looked at both of them and said, okay, yo, I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm just gonna leave. Like, this is just weird. And I got up, and as I got up, I remember both of the girls ended up coming towards me, and they both grabbed my hand and said, no, like, don't leave, like, just try us out. I looked at both of them and made a joke about, you know, trying them out, like how it was kind of funny how they said that. And that's when they got the bright idea to bring me up to their bedroom and basically decided to take off their clothing in front of me. They said, you know what, try us out, and if you don't enjoy one of us, then you can have both of us. At that point, I didn't know what to say. This was straight up out of the devil's hub. Like, I was just mind blown that this was even happening right now. And at that point, me and the two girls ended up doing the devil's tango. Obviously, it was a little awkward because I think this was only like the second time I've ever done two girls at the same time. To be for real with you, I kind of smashed it. I'm not gonna lie, literally and figuratively. Yeah, you know, I don't know. The more I try to explain the story, the more awkward it seems. But long story short, I ended up doing two girls at the same time. Now, you guys are probably thinking, oh, that's perfect. You know, you just ended up doing the devil's tango with two girls at the same time. Well, this is where the story gets even worse and super embarrassing, because I remember as I'm in the middle of doing these two girls, out of nowhere, I ended up hearing the front door open. I look at one of the girls and say, yo, is your parents home or something? No, they should be like gone for the whole weekend. Wait, who's here? And at that point, I hear voices that I recognize downstairs looking for me saying, yo, Bubba, you said there was a party here. Where is everybody? And at that point, I'm like, oh shoot, my homies that I told about the party actually ended up coming. And right as they heard that, one of the girls ended up making like an eking sound, like kind of like a, you know, like kind of like a gasping freak out sound. And the boys heard it downstairs, ran upstairs and saw me and the two girls in the same bed. What did the boys do? Well, they ended up basically closing the door and all clapping for me, thinking, wow, this is a great party, Bubba. Thanks for inviting us to your amazing 3 it was super embarrassing. And honestly, when I ended up getting ready and walking out of the room, they all ended up basically applauding me as if I won like an Oscar. But I'm gonna be real with you, I was pretty embarrassed, and so were the two girls. And basically all of us, we ended up going downstairs after and making a promise that we were not gonna ever say anything about this super embarrassing moment. Well, until now, because, well, I'm telling the entire internet it because, well, my story, so why not? Okay, so no one should ever do this. Doing this is one of the most dumbest things in the world, and I think you will be literally clowned on and, well, exposed later on in the future for doing this. And, well, for me, instead of waiting for someone to expose me, I might as well do it to myself. And yes, you guys read the title right. Taking out two girls in one night was not easy. But before I do get into the story, I just want to mention that you guys should really leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Seriously means a lot when you guys do. And on top of that, I am currently live on Twitch streaming to you guys and basically telling you guys more of these insane stories. So if you guys haven't done that already, and go click on the description down below and hang out with me live, then do so right now. Like, seriously, just do it right now. I don't know why you guys are being so weird. Okay, anyways, other than that, let's just get straight into this. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another insane story. So this story, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't want to tell this one because I didn't want to expose myself in like 4K, 8K, 52K. What are we at right now? I don't know. Basically expose myself. But today's story is honestly really funny, and I remember this back when I was in grade 11. Back when I was in grade 11, I remember I was in my prime slaying days, meaning that I could pull chicks left and right. But obviously, chicks in my school were getting to know me too well, and word got out that I was, you know, the ultimate F-boy at my school. So obviously, I have to change my ways. And by changing my ways, I mean widen the grid. Basically, I remember I installed this thing called Tinder. I didn't install it that day. I really always had it on my phone, but I never really severely used it. Because, well, you know, chicks are weird on there, and, you know, some past experiences. Yeah, nothing good was coming out of it. But I remember one time in the middle of class, I remember I was just bored and I finished my homework early, so I was just swiping through Tinder. And then my friend came up to me behind me and told me, dude, like, why are you being so, like, judgmental and selective? Just swipe on a bunch of them. You'll definitely get more if you do that. And he was right. I remember I looked at my phone and I started putting my phone on the ground, placing it sideways, and started swiping everyone. And I used both of my fingers, guys. Both. Like, my fingers were going speed demon. And I just kept going and I kept adding and swiping on every chick I could get. Now, warning, you don't know what you're gonna get. And to be honest, I couldn't read the names. Like, for God's sakes, I could have swiped on a guy and I wouldn't even know. But anyways, I remember I swiped on a bunch of chicks, and basically, like, I matched with, like, I think 30 or 45 of them at the moment. And then I remember it was so funny because after like 10 minutes, class ended and I was starting to walk over to my next class, and instantly I started getting messages. My phone kept going and I just kept getting vibrations on my butt almost the entire school day. Knowing how many chicks were messaging me on Tinder was insane. And I think it was because I had a really cool, nice photo of like my car at the time. And basically I flexed like, you know, my money and stuff. Yeah, I know, I was one of those weirdos. But going on though, basically a bunch of chicks, you know, hit me up. They started adding me. They started talking to me and stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, some of them were really hot. But some of these girls were super desperate, like crazy desperate to see me and meet me. And because they wanted to do the devil's tango. And some of the girls that I swiped on apparently already knew me. So I remember I ended up messaging these two specific chicks that were really into me. And I remember one of them was like some brunette and another one was a blonde one. I don't know. They were just two random chicks. And basically, I remember I added them on Snapchat because, you know, it's way better communicating on Snapchat to make sure they were real. And they were real. They were two real chicks that really wanted to talk to me and meet up with me. And then I remember I was talking to both these chicks the entire night when I was playing Call of Duty with the boys. Because when I got home, that's really all I did. I sat down, I was playing Call of Duty with the boys, playing some Black Ops 2. And then out of nowhere, I remember telling the boys, yo, like, guys, like, dude, these two chicks they so want me, bro. Like, they want me so bad. And I remember one of my guy friends was like, dude, like, why don't you just like take them out then, just go get some, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm gonna go do the devil's tango. So that was the plan. I remember throughout the entire night I was messaging both of them. I was up till like 5 in the morning. Thank God it was a Friday night because there was no way I was gonna go to school the next day. And then I remember around like 5:30 at night, I was so tired and so exhausted to the point where I was like basically hallucinating. Like, I think we all know that feeling when we're up so late at night to the point where we're like we start tripping out basically. Yeah, basically I was at that moment in that time and I was freaking out, kind of like being dazed out of my mind. And then after that, I kept replying to these two girls because both of them were still up with me talking to me. I remember the funniest thing happened where it got to the point where I was confused and I ended up snapping both of them, and they both asked me out, and they both said, hey, like, when do you want to go out? Like, we should meet up. And they both asked me that, and I replied to both of them with the same answer. Oh, we can go out at 7:30 to this restaurant. I said that to one girl, and then after that, the other girl said, when, question mark, and I thought it was the same girl I was already messaging, so I messaged her the same thing as well, saying 7:30 at this restaurant. Yeah, that wasn't smart of me, because I remember I ended up passing out, and the next day I woke up, and they both messaged me saying, okay, like, see you there. Bruh, you're telling me that I got stuck with two girls at the same time, going to the same restaurant, and I have to go on 2 dates at the same time? Is that even possible? Is this possible? Is what I thought to myself over time. So I remember I ended up going back on Xbox with the boys, because I slept in, and I woke up at like 12:30 in the afternoon, and I hopped on, and when my friends were on, and I remember I told them, like, bro, like, I'm stuck in like this situation, bro. Like, I have to take out two girls at once. Like, I don't know what to do. And he's like, oh, like, why don't you just combine the dates? And I'm like, nah, man, like, I can't do that, because then it's gonna look like I'm like a major player. And he's like, but you are. I'm like, that's not the point. The point is I gotta figure out a way to like figure out this situation. Like, how am I gonna address this? How am I gonna do this? Like, am I gonna cancel one of them? And after that, my friend told me, oh, like, why don't you like just bring me along, and you can see him like a catfish. And I'm like, dude, no way I'm gonna be a catfishing one of these girls, bro. Like, I'm gonna get exposed. Like, I can't do that, and they could ban my Tinder account. So that means I can't get any more girls. Then he told me, dude, just be at 2 places at once. What? 2 places at once? Is that even possible? But then I came up with a master plan. The plan to go take out 2 girls at once. And by the way, quick warning, no one should do this. Okay, this is just some dumb things I do in high school, but you guys should not do this. And no way do you guys should plan this out or try to do this. But for me, I got away with it, and hopefully maybe you guys will one day too, if you guys really want to. But my advice, don't do this. Fair warning, don't do this. YouTube, don't demonetize me. Just don't do this. Anyways, going on. I remember basically the master plan was I would take out both of these girls at the same time. Basically, I would meet one at the restaurant a bit earlier and adjust the time to go a bit earlier, and then the other one I would meet up with, and basically my main excuse to leave the table was to go to the bathroom. So it worked out. I remember I ended up taking the first girl out, and basically me and her, we ended up going to meet at the restaurant, and knowing the girl was going to come a half an hour sooner, I had to really plan this out. So we sat at the table, and when we sat at the table, the waitress came up to us. She's like, oh, like, what do you guys like to drink? We both said water. Yeah, I know we're lame. And then after that, I got a ring on my phone saying, ring, 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 ring. Hey, like, I'm literally outside the restaurant. Where are you? And me, I went up to the waiter, and I basically addressed my situation instantly. I'm like, hey, listen, I got 2 girls here. I'm stuck in this situation. Can you please help me? She looked at me. She's like, so you're telling me you're buying 2 dinners for 2 chicks in 2 different tables? I look at her. I'm like, yes, just go with it. I'll tip you good. Once she heard I would tip you good, she basically like had her eyes wide open. She's like, all right, bet, let's do this. And basically I went and met up with the other chick at front, and I walked out saying, oh, like, I already got a table for us. I thought it'd be cool to get it early for you. Me sound like a really great guy. And basically the waitress walked up to us saying, hey, like, welcome to the restaurant. What can I get for you guys? And we said the same thing, water. So knowing I had 2 chicks in 2 different tables, I had to really think this through. But honestly, I'm not gonna lie, one mistake I did was that I ate before I came to the restaurant, so I wasn't really that hungry. But knowing I had to order food twice, well, that's gonna suck. And by suck, I mean really suck. And as well as, let's just be real here, this was a situation that no one should have been in the first place. But honestly, guys, what happens next is seriously insane, but this story is getting way too long. I keep realizing I keep doing this, and I apologize, but this story is way too long. So you guys do want the next part of me taking 2 girls out the same night? Well, trust me, it ends really good with maybe some devil's tango. Who knows? But other than that, follow me on Instagram, follow me on all platforms, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like I said earlier, I am live on Twitch streaming as we speak. And like I always say, follow for more embarrassing but amazing stories. All right, peace out, guys.
Should I make it a story? Let's click record. Got that TikTok with 2 mil hit different with some more. She said she loved me.